So hello everyone and welcome back to my channel and welcome to a brand new video. So today we're doing a bit of a sit down video. I'm in the opposite corner of this room. I try and use this corner as much as I can, but I feel like unless I'm doing like a proper chilled sit down style video, it's really difficult to use. But that's what we're going to be doing today. So recently my friend Katie from Silver Mermaid did an assumptions about me video, and I just found it absolutely hilarious when I was watching it. It was really funny to see like what people were saying and like what people thought, and maybe like what was like a bit of an assumption about her. So I put on my stories, I was like, would you guys like to see me do that kind of video? And it was a resounding yes. So I was like, okay guys, send in your assumptions. And I told you guys, be as savage as you like, be as funny as you like, be as rude as you like, and you were. No, honestly, there were some like really nice ones, but there was also some absolute savage ones, which I just thought was so funny. So I'm here to spill the tea, let you know if your assumptions are right, let you know a little bit more about me, and I thought this could be a bit of a funny video and a bit of a nicer way to like get to know me, get to know maybe a bit more about like my background, because I think sometimes it's easy to know I went to IKEA on Saturday, but it's not so easy to know where I grew up, or if my parents were rich, or if I went to a private school. So this is going to be the kind of video where you get to know me on a little bit of a deeper level. So I hope you guys really like this. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up if you do, and let's jump straight in. So I've just saved them all on my phone, so I'm sorry if I keep like looking down at my phone, but I've just saved like the ones that I thought were the funniest onto this. I haven't done all of them because there were actually quite a few. I wasn't sure whether to expect a lot or not or anything like that. There were quite a few and there were a lot of repeats, so I'm just going to do the ones that I think were like the funniest or like to include in this. So the first one, and I think this is a very fair assumption, is you are addicted to coffee. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll know that literally every single morning I will put up a coffee photo like in my stories. It'll be like morning with like my morning coffee. Okay, when I say addicted, I have like one coffee a day, sometimes two if I'm really low on energy, but like I am quite strict with myself in the sense that I don't have coffee after like 3-4 p.m. I just won't let myself, even if it's like an iced coffee. And it's so funny because my mum actually, she always says that caffeine doesn't affect her, and she'll happily have a coffee at like 9 o'clock at night. And the amount of times if like I go down for dinner or whatnot at my parents', and after dinner mum's always like, do you want a coffee? And I was like, oh yeah, if you've got a decaf. She's like, oh, we've not got a decaf. I'm like, it's 8 o'clock at night, mother. How can I have a coffee at 8 o'clock at night? So yes, I am a little bit addicted to coffee, but I try to be as strict with myself as possible so that like I don't get too affected by the caffeine. Like I do notice myself getting affected by caffeine. If I have like 2-3 coffees a day, I'll get really jittery, I can get quite anxious. And like especially when I was like in London a lot for meetings and whatnot, there would be times where I'd have 6 back-to-back meetings, and they're all coffee meetings, so I would have 6 coffees and no food all day, and I would get on the train to come home and be like, I think I should have eaten something. So I do try to be quite strict myself, and I have like 1 a day, max 2. But yes, I am a little bit addicted to coffee. So the next assumption is you have no body hang-ups. You seem so comfortable in front of the camera in all your clothes. First of all, thank you. That's quite a compliment to know that like you guys think I look very confident. But I definitely am not, I definitely do have some kind of body hang-ups. And sometimes it's kind of hard to like say that, to admit that actually, yeah, I do. And that's why I exercise a little bit, but I'm not the kind of person that goes religiously to the gym or like religiously works out, anything like that. For me, exercise is more mental than it is physical, but it is partially physical. Funnily enough, my biggest bodily hang-up is just how small I am. I've always hated my height. I used to like netball and stuff as a kid, and all I would ever get told is, oh, she was just a couple of inches taller. And like I always say to people, I just wish, like I'm fine being a short girl, but 5 foot exactly is very short. Like even just 5'2", I would be happy. So like there are body hang-ups, and like, I know I've spoken about before, like you guys always know in my videos that like my tummy is like my problem area. I never like to say that, but that's like the area that I really don't like. So like with clothes, if it clings to my stomach, I just will never be comfortable. But I would say that like I'm a very strange person in the sense that I do, even if I have those hang-ups, I do feel fairly confident in front of the camera, especially like if we're going out shooting or anything like that. Once the camera's on, I just kind of forget about people around me, and I'm like, yep, snap away, ooh, get my good angle. and so it's kind of like, I think it's come from how many years I've been doing this and how long. Like if you looked back on those first photos that I put up on my Instagram, I didn't actually show my face for about the first year and a half of my Instagram, and then when I did, like when I started street style shooting, I was literally just did not know what to do, did not know like how to pose in front of the camera. So like it's definitely come from experience and stuff like that. And I also think it's just maturity in the sense that like, even though I know my hang up is my tummy, I don't think a single other person would ever look at me and go, oh, she's got a bit of a tummy. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of about that, acknowledging that these things are always going to be personal and are always going to be inwards rather than like an actual outward thing. It's about making myself feel more comfortable and more confident in the clothes that I wear, rather than like, oh, I can't wear that because I'm a curvy girl, or I can't wear that because I'm a short girl. Like I never think like that. I just think what makes me feel good. So I do have some body hang-ups, I do have some form of confidence, and I think it's just about acknowledging you're never going to be 100% happy in your body. Even the size 6 girls will want to change something about that, and you know, it's one of those things that no one's ever 100% happy, and it's just about being able to accept that this is something inwards, and if there's something you want to change, like that, you can go to the gym, or you know, if you really want to save up for surgery, do it. But it's about knowing that it's okay to be imperfect, and that's something that I really want to put across, is that even if I have my body hang-ups, I want to show that I can still wear these clothes with confidence and look good on the gram and feel confident and feel good, and that's what I want to like project onto you guys. The next one says, you are 5'2". You must be new here because I've made it very obvious. I'm 5 foot exactly. I wish I could be 5'2". So no, that's a wrong one. Okay, so the next one, it says that you return/sell a lot of the clothes you order for hauls. Now, for the clothes that I wear on my Instagram, it's quite different for like Instagram versus YouTube. The clothes that I wear on my Instagram, I'm not that kind of person that will go out and shoot something on the street with a tag still attached and then return it, because I just think that's like a bit, there's nothing worse than when you pick something up in a shop and it has like the smell of someone's perfume, or like it's covered in their foundation and you're just like, really? However, on YouTube, first of all, I'm very open about what I return. So like when I go through hauls, if I don't like something, if it doesn't look good, then I'll be like, yep, definitely returning that, definitely not going to keep that. But I do try and be a bit stricter on myself with like not keeping too many things, even if I like something, if I've got like a similar item. But again, I'll always be like really open with you guys and be like, I absolutely love this dress, but I already have 4 other white dresses in my wardrobe, so you know, I would suggest it for you guys, but I'm probably gonna have to return this. So for my YouTube, like with the hauls and stuff, I do return a fair amount of it, mainly just because I don't want to be a hoarder, and also I don't want to be broke. But with regards to selling, I don't really sell too much, to be perfectly honest. Like I do have a Depop and I do put a few things up on there. But first of all, I do try and curate my wardrobe as much as I can, in the sense that like there aren't things that I want to move on from that quickly. And second of all, I think I actually basically have like a lot of family and friends that are like similar sizes to me that I can pass my clothes on to. So I'll usually do big bag drops to them instead, just because I feel like I know them, I know they'll get the use out of them, I know what they like and stuff like that. So I've got like a few friends that I'll text and just be like, there's a bag waiting in your porch, and they'll be able to go through it. It's not just clothes, it's like clothes, beauty bits, bags, shoes, whatever. So I usually would prefer to like move it on to someone that I know really well, and I can give it to them like and not have to bother with shipping and postage and will you take £5 for an £80 top. Like I just sometimes find that Depop can be quite annoying in that sense, so I do use it sometimes, but I do have such a love-hate relationship with Depop and like selling my clothes. So in answer to that one, I sell barely any, but I do give a lot away to like charity and friends and family. And with regards to returning, I am usually really, really open and honest with what I keep in return with you guys, and I try to be as strict for myself as possible to return what I don't need and what I'm not going to get any use out of. When I first saw this one, I thought it was a friend of mine who constantly calls me this, and it actually wasn't, but someone put, you are high maintenance. I don't really know the answer to that one. Yeah, probably. I think I am. I know what I like, and like I know where I want to be in life, and like I know what serves me. So I'm high maintenance in the sense that like if something doesn't serve me, if something makes me unhappy, if something like doesn't fit with like my life anymore, I'll move on from it. But I don't really know what kind of like high maintenance counts as. Like I'm not high maintenance in the sense that like expect Alex to buy me loads of presents. I like expect him to like do all the housework. But yeah, I'd say I'm more just high maintenance in the sense that like, if it doesn't serve me, I'll move on from it, and I'll be a little bit savage in the sense that I will cut things out of my life if that doesn't serve me. And I think that's more just from like experience and growing and realizing what does and doesn't serve you and what does and doesn't waste your time. So yeah, love that one. High maintenance, fab. Oh, this next one is you let Alex spoil you. When I said you guys were savage, I really meant that. It's so funny. I'd say no, he doesn't spoil me. Well, it's difficult because it's like, I'd say we spoil each other in the sense that like I always want to like make sure he's okay, and like it's knowing each other's love language. So Alex's love language is like touch, hugs, kisses, everything like that. So I know if like he's had a down day, like if I'm sitting watching TV or whatever, he gets really annoyed if we're like sitting watching a film. I don't like to cuddle watching a film. Like we sit at opposite ends of the sofa and he's just like, oh, do you want to come here? And I'm like, no, I'm watching a film. So like if I know if he's had a bad day, I will like I know if he's had a bad day, I'll really like make an effort to give him hugs and like make him feel loved and, you know, everything like that. Whereas my love language is acts of service. So that's why a lot of the time you'll see like Alex has made dinner for us, or like Alex is painting this for me, or Alex is putting that up, and it's because he knows that is my love language and that's how he shows me that he loves me. So like if I've had a really hard day, I'll usually come home and I can just see that he's making all these efforts to be like, right, what can I do? Oh, I can get her a cup of tea, that'll make her feel loved. Oh, what can I do? Oh, the washing needs putting on, let's put the washing on for her, that'll make her feel loved. So like I think in that sense, like, yes, we do kind of spoil each other in just that we try everything we can to make the other person feel loved. If that question is like he spoils you with things, no. Like, it's really funny. My love language is presents in the sense that I like to get people presents, and like I show my love by like, if I go to the supermarket, I'll just buy him a little gift, like a little chocolate bar. Or if I go out for the day, like if I have a girls' day with my mum and my sister, I'll always bring something home for Alex. The other day I went out with my mum and my sister and I brought home crispy crumbs. So like that's another love language for me, and like how I show people I love them. He couldn't care less about that, so he doesn't ever even think about like just buying me things spontaneously, because that's just not how he expresses how he loves me. So like he doesn't spoil me in that sense. But then like for things like birthdays, 100% he spoiled me for my birthday. He bought me way too much and I told him off for it. So it's just kind of like, I'd say we do spoil each other in a way, but like he doesn't spoil me in the sense that I'm like his sugar baby. No. I quite like this one as well. I kind of answered it before, but it says you never worked a retail job before. So as I said, the first job I ever had was a paper girl at the age of 11, and since then I have literally worked non-stop. So I think I'd racked up about 8 jobs by the time I was 16, and I have had so many jobs. Like I worked at McDonald's, I worked at John Lewis, I worked at a swimming pool, I worked at a clothes shop, I worked at a school uniform shop. I'm trying to think what else I've done, like lots of receptionist jobs, lots of like admin jobs, worked at a museum. So yes, I definitely have done retail. The biggest like retail one that I did, sorry, the light is changing, it's getting very bright. The biggest retail that I did was John Lewis, and I really liked it. They treated you so well, but unfortunately I had to leave that job for, was that when I went off to uni? Yeah, I think it was for when I went off to uni. But they treated you really well there, and I thought they were really great. But my goodness, it really does show you what society is like and what people can be like, especially because I worked there over Christmas time, and that was testing. I worked in the home section on the busiest till, and honestly I just remember like my whole time was just boxing up and like go, boxing up and go, and then like I would just have to, people would get so aggy at you and like you'd just be there like, I'm so sorry for the wait. And I remember actually one time I just said, I'm so sorry for the wait, and the woman just looked at me and went, no you're not. And I was just thinking to myself, no I'm not, but what are you gonna do? So yeah, that was, John Lewis was fine actually. That was like the main retail job. Oh, also like school uniform shop is retail, I guess, and like a clothes shop and stuff, worked there. The worst job I ever had was McDonald's. I went like, that was absolutely dire. That was really challenging, in the sense that just you're on your feet for ages. There's loads of strict, like there's so much strictness, and like it's really like you don't have a lot of control, and that's something I really hate. Like I like to be in control. I like to know I'm coming in at 8 in the morning, I'm going for lunch at 12, I'm going to be back at 12:30, and then I'm working till 6. Whereas one thing I really hated is that, like, so you'd come on your shift, say at 8 o'clock, and then you could be asked to go for your lunch at 10 o'clock, or you could be asked to go for your lunch at 1, and it's all just down to your manager, and they would just turn and go for your lunch now, and you'd be like, oh, okay. And that was something I really hated, because there'll be sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'm starving, I just want to go have lunch, and other times where it'd be like 9:30 in the morning, and I've been on the shift for an hour and a half, and they're like, yeah, go for your lunch, and I'm like, okay, but then I've got like 8 hours on my shift left afterwards, and they're like, yeah. And things like when you weren't allowed to leave your shift until your manager like clocked you off. So like, say your shift is supposed to end at 4, you would literally be like looking at the clock like, oh, okay, it's 4 o'clock, I can go home now. And you'd be looking at your manager, and they just wouldn't sign you off yet. They'd be like, no, like maybe the next person hasn't come yet, or you're a bit short-staffed, and they would just avoid eye contact with you and be like, no, I'm not signing you off. And it gets like halfway and you're like, is she gonna let me home yet? No? Can I go home? And you would literally have to sit and wait there until your manager could say. And there'll be a couple of times where I'd be like, oh, hey, I'm supposed to finish at 4, am I okay to go? And they're like, no, we're not ready for you to go yet. Like, okay, so like if you're meeting friends or something after work, it's literally impossible, because you could like text them like, well, I could finish at 4, I might still be there at 5:30. Occasionally they tell you to go home early at like 3:30. So that was definitely my worst. But I've definitely had to graft in the past, and like I've had some really crappy jobs, really crappy wages. I remember my first job I think was like £3.50 an hour, and I just remember sitting there thinking, like, that was obviously the minimum wage back then, and I just remember sitting there thinking, this is not worth £3.50. But you do what you've got to do to earn your way and like get going. I've had some alright jobs, I've had some not so good jobs, and I always think it's like part of building your character. And I think part of the reason why I appreciate the job that I do now, obviously like influencing and whatever, part of the reason why I appreciate it so much is because I have had to deal with so many crappy jobs and so much like minimum wage crap that you have to deal with, like managers that just don't care, and you know, customers that just rude to you. So I'm always really polite to like customer service, to waitresses, to anyone in retail. I always just think like, you've got to be polite, and you have to understand that they don't want to be there. They don't get, they don't really, most of the time they don't get paid enough to care about your problem. So yeah, I'm always like wary of that. But yes, I have definitely worked retail jobs, I've definitely worked crappy jobs. I've had my fair share of jobs in the past. Now the next one I'm going to mix two. So one of them says you're highly educated, and one of them says you studied psychology at uni. So I'll kind of like put these in together. I'll be able to answer them both in one go. First of all, no, I didn't study psychology at uni. Let's just put that out there. I actually studied liberal arts at University of Derby. So liberal arts is a really weird one. It's basically like, it's a very American subject, and it's one that when you say to someone in Britain, oh, I study liberal arts, they're like, what is that? But if you said to an American, oh, I study liberal arts, they would all be like, oh yeah, right. So it's essentially an amalgamation of a load of humanities subjects. So I did actually study a little bit of psychology within my degree, but that's not what my like certificate is. So it was essentially like a case of like picking and choosing what you wanted, and like each year got more specialised. So like in my first year I did like a history module, I did a English module, and then like each year it gets on, so it was a 3-year course, it got like more specialised and you had more choice. And I think from that degree I have learned an awful lot. So in answer to the kind of like, you are highly educated, I would say yes, because I have a degree, and that is essentially higher education. I don't know what that kind of question meant in the sense that like you went to private school, and if that was the question, no, I didn't. I went to a state school in Southampton. It was an all-girls state school. Absolutely loved it. Whenever I tell people I went to an all-girls school, they're like, what was that like? And I'll tell you now, it was blooming great. No one went to school with makeup on, like no one cared about how they looked. I remember the only times that girls would come in with makeup, we'd all be like, you're gonna meet the boys after school? They're like, yeah. So like I loved it in that sense, and obviously it was, I mean, everyone's always like, oh, so bitchy. I'm like, not any more than the girls I know that went to mixed schools, and actually they had more arguments because it was usually about boys. So I really loved it because I found that like I had like a really close friendship group, and like a really tight group of girls that I still speak to and I'm still friends with now. And I'm so grateful for the experiences that I had through there. And I definitely think, because like a lot of people will say that I'm very like confident, like open. Like when I did my collaboration with Canis Balance, I know so many people messaged me like, God, I'd be so awkward about that. And I'm like, I think partly the reason why I'm so awkward and I think partly the reason why I'm so open about talking with like periods and like things like that is because I went to an all-girls school, and it would literally be a case of you put your hand up and be like, miss, can I go to the toilet? I need to change my tampon. And she'd be like, yeah, off you go. So like it was never a kind of like, oh god, you've got to hide the tampon as you go to the toilet, and like it was always really funny if male teachers would ever like not let you. You'd be like, sir, you don't understand, I'm on my period. And he would be like, okay, off you go. So like I'm very open about talking that kind of thing. So I'm not high educated in the sense that like I went to a private school, but I did go to a state school, went to a state college, and then went to uni. And I would say I'm highly educated in the sense that I have higher education. I have a university degree, a Bachelor of Honours, Bachelor of Arts, sorry. Bachelor of Arts Honours, is that the right way? Yeah, and I got a 2-1 in the end. I was literally, so if you don't know, a first is like the highest grade you get, and that is 70% and up. And they'll usually give it to you if you get about 69%. They usually just kind of give you a first. I got 68.9%. So I was basically 0.1% off a first. I was like, are you kidding me? But I ended up getting top of my class, which was really cool. So I would say I'm highly educated in that sense. And also because of the topics I studied in my degree, and because of how, I mean, it's liberal arts. My degree was literally about liberalism. We did a whole module about online activism, like when everything happened with Black Lives Matter. Without bragging, I felt very, very educated already, because I did a whole module about it and literally wrote an essay about the effects of online activism, specialising in the Black Lives Matter movement. So like I feel like I'm very highly educated in a lot of world problems and things like that. Like we did a whole degree, a whole module, sorry, on like feminism. One of my essays I wrote was about how the Spice Girls influenced feminism. Then we did a module about McDonaldization, which if anyone wants to know about McDonaldization, it's basically about how McDonald's changed the world, how it led to things like Starbucks and Pret a Manger and Costa and everything like that, and how it led to like franchises. So I would definitely say I'm highly educated in that sense, and I do feel like I have quite a good understanding about the world because of my degree. I would definitely say a lot of it is because of my degree, so I'm so grateful that I chose to do that degree. It's not available anymore actually, which is so upsetting. They stopped doing it because it just didn't have enough interest. But yeah, in answer to that question, I think I am highly educated. Sorry if anything's changed, guys. We had a camera battery death. That's probably how long I'm going on. I might have to cut some of the ones I've saved if I'm going on for this long. Next one, let's do a short one because I've been rambling so much. Is you're really positive. First of all, thank you, that's very sweet. There were quite a few, like you're a really positive person, like you're a really bubbly person. With regards to the whole you are really positive, swings and roundabouts, that's all I'm going to say. I live with anxiety, which means that I can sometimes spiral really, really low, and I can spiral into the most pessimistic, anxious person you'll ever meet, and I will literally just be like, it's so hard to explain if you're not someone that's ever like experienced it or like lived with anxiety. I would say me and Alex balance each other out in the sense that like he can sometimes be pessimistic, so I have to bring him up and like be a bit more optimistic, but then sometimes if I get really anxious I can be really, really like negative, and he's got to like bring me up positivity wise. So I would say I try to see the positivity in everything, and like I try to be as positive as possible, but due to having anxiety it's not always possible. So I know kind of like ways to deal with it. I know ways to like help myself, which is like the biggest thing, is just like knowing what you need to do to make yourself feel better. So I would say I try to be as positive a person as possible. It's not always possible, and so remember that everything you see online will always be a highlight reel. And if you're looking online, looking at my Instagram thinking like, my god, she's just so positive all the time, remember that's not the whole story. Which moves on very nicely to the next one. It's you are very scared to... You get scared, I can't blooming read it, I'm so sorry. You get scared to show your true self online for fear of backlash. So I think that kind of like, that ties in to that point very, very nicely, as I was saying about online being a highlight reel. So this is like a difficult one to answer, because I would definitely say that I am my true self online. Like I don't put on a persona, I don't hide behind a facade, I don't like come onto Instagram and have to be like, okay, this is now Petite Ellie, this isn't Ellie. Like my friends always say to me, like when they watch my videos and stuff, they're like, you're exactly the same in your videos as you are online. And I've had a few people that have met me that have said like, oh, it's really nice to see that you're exactly the same online as you are in real life. And I think it's a case of like, you just kind of can't pretend to be something you're not online. So I would definitely say I am my true self, But in the sense of like backlash and stuff, I think I'm quite lucky in the sense that like I have seen what people have had to go through who have maybe a bigger audience than me, who have kind of like experienced it first. And because of that, I'm aware of like what I'm saying, and I'm very aware of that I have a platform and that I need to be careful, and I can't just say things like off the hook, or you know, things that could be taken offensively. And I mean, even sometimes when I watch videos, I might like hear something and be like, that kind of offends me a little bit, or like, you know, I don't really like that you've said that. And I always just think like, if someone else could hear what I have to say, like, you always have to think that everyone's experiencing your videos in their own different way, and like everyone's experiencing how you are in line in your own different way. So I basically just don't give myself an opportunity to get backlash. I mean, I'm not a very controversial person, I'm not very controversial online, I don't like live for the drama or like spill the tea all the time. I mean, today's video is spilling the tea on myself, so it's like, I'm a very like beige content creator. I don't really create anything that probably could create a lot of backlash. But also saying that, I am still quite careful, not careful, but I'm just aware that every time I speak, I'm not just speaking to one person who knows me really well and like gets me, and if I say something that like could like mess up, they'll understand that's not what I meant. I'm speaking to a wider audience who don't know me as well, and I could say something that could upset someone, and I would hate to do that. I would hate to say something that could be misconstrued and like could be taken in a different way. So in that sense, I am kind of careful. Careful is not the right word, I'm just aware of what I am like putting out there and putting towards my audience. But I would always say I am my true self, and there is no point in being anyone else, because you guys will see completely through the facade, and the reason why you follow me is because I am my true self, I like to think. So yeah. So the next one kind of links to what I'm saying about university, and this one is about you don't educate yourself on politics/political events. Now, I can kind of understand why this person has said that, because I know that I probably don't speak up as much about maybe some more like controversial things or political things. However, I would say I'm definitely educated on them. But I think sometimes people forget that just because you have a platform doesn't mean you should speak about it every single time. And I know that like sometimes I feel like I'm educated enough to like create my own opinion, but I would hate to say something that would maybe make someone else think, oh well, I've got to think what Ellie thinks. Like, oh, Ellie thinks that's bad, let's all think that's bad. So like, I do educate myself, but I don't always use my platform to like educate you guys, because I just don't think that's why you follow me. Like, let's be honest, are you really going to change your political opinion based on an influencer that you saw online, that you have seen do a few hauls? So yeah, that's a difficult one, because I do think sometimes people ask me like, why don't you like speak out more about things? And I'm like, because I just don't always feel like it's my place, and I don't always feel like it's necessary, and I often come to Instagram and YouTube and everything like that as an escape from it. So if I'm suddenly sitting here like, so guys, let's talk politics, you might be like, I don't want to talk politics, I'll go to BBC News for that, thanks very much. I don't want to hear some 20-something-year-old, you know, telling me her opinions on it. So yeah, I do like to educate myself as much as possible, and I do really encourage you guys to educate yourselves as much as possible. I think it's not something you learn at school, and it's something that we can always be continuing to educate ourselves. I mean, we've all seen like older generations that kind of, they think they know it, and it's like, that's it, it's full stop. And it's like, no matter what age you are, whether you're in your 20s or in your 50s, you can still always be educating yourself further on it. Okay, this next one says, you have no budget / spend frivolously. I do have a budget. I don't always stick to it. I like to think I don't spend frivolously, but I'm literally looking at my wall of bags and shoes and I'm like, I like to spend my own money, and like I like to treat myself to things. Like, it's so funny, I was chatting to some friends the other day, because I'm getting kind of close to 50k, and they were like, oh, what are you gonna do for 50k? I was like, probably buy myself something. And they all cracked up laughing, because that's just such an Ellie thing. Like, I always like to like treat myself, and like I like to think I am my own sugar mama. That is what I like to say. So I would say I try not to spend frivolously. I don't always succeed, but I do try and stick to a budget. I mean, I do have rent and bills and food to pay for, so it's like, at the end of the day, if I've got a toss up between paying my rent for the month and buying a new designer bag, obviously I'm going to pay my rent. And I only have one credit card. I'm very, very strict with regards to like credit cards and everything, and I have a set so that it's like automatically pays itself, like my bank pays it each month, so that I don't even have to think about like, oh my god, how much debt am I in, like how much money do I owe, do I need to pay that back? Like I have it set up automatically so that I just know anything I spend on my credit card, I can just send it straight like from my bank. And then I only do things with my credit card that I like really need to, and I basically only bought it because it helps you with getting a mortgage, like being able to prove that you can borrow and pay back money like with a credit card helps you with your credit score. It's so ironic. If you have no credit score, that is a bad credit score. So you need to actually borrow money to prove that you can pay the money back to get a credit score. So yeah, I'm like very strict on my credit card, and like I only do things like travel because obviously you get the insurance and things like that. So I try not to spend too frivolously. I try to stick to a budget, but nobody's perfect. I think I'm going to end on this last one because I think this is a really, really interesting one to answer. And this person has just written, you are privileged. And I think the answer to that is yeah. The fact that I am sitting here as a white, cis, straight woman, that gives me privilege. And I completely acknowledge that. And I think a lot of like learning has gone into that, a lot of education. Obviously my degree has taught me a hell of a lot about that. Obviously like when the Black Lives Matter movement kind of like resurfaced this year, and like a lot of issues with regards to individuals who menstruate, and some comments that were said about that. It was funny, I was having a discussion with some relatives, and someone said to me like, do you really think you're the best person to be speaking about this? And I think they meant that because of my age, but I turned around and went, actually yeah, I think I'm the highest educated person on this right now, you know, in this room, because I literally did a degree on this stuff. So I've really, really learned about my privilege. I've really, really learned about just the fact that I have two parents that are still together, that I lived with up until I went to university with. That makes me privileged. You know, I didn't get kicked out at 16, like a lot of people I know did. That gives me privilege. I am straight. I've never had to question my sexuality. That gives me privilege. I'm cis. I've never questioned whether I am a woman or not, you know, whether I'm female. That gives me privilege. So I think so many people see privilege as such like ugly word, and I've seen this for years and years and years, that people think privilege is like an attack, and especially with the Black Lives Matter movement at the moment, like people saying you have white privilege. So many people who aren't educated on it and aren't educated on privilege see that as an attack, and it's not. All it's doing is saying that you doesn't mean you didn't have struggles. Because I am a straight white cis woman does not mean I did struggle in other ways. The only thing that would make me more privileged if I was a straight white cis man. I think it's just the importance of being able to like look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I've had these struggles, but because the fact that I'm white, I've not had to have those struggles, and because the fact that I'm cis, I've not had to have those struggles, and because I am straight, I've not had to have those struggles. So it's like, I think a lot of us just need to kind of like look ourselves in the mirror and realize, just because we have hardships in our life, just because we have things that like maybe we feel like, oh, I'm a bit down and out because of that, and oh, it's so unfair that I, you know, that girl has this and I don't. Just being able to say that you are, you know, whatever, you do have privilege. And so I think that's like a really, really important message to take away, that it's not an ugly word. It's okay to hold your hands up and say, yeah, I do have privilege, and I'd like to know further how I can use it, and I'd like to know more about how I can put into place, you know, actions that will help those that don't have those privileges. So yeah, I definitely say that's a really, really interesting one, because I don't know what that person meant by that. I don't know if that meant like you're wealthy, or you were born in a really privileged family, or I don't know what they meant, but just from reading that, you are privileged. Yes. I feel like that ended on a very, very deep note, and I feel like I've been talking for hours. So I hope this video isn't too long for you guys, but I really hope you guys did enjoy it. Obviously I had so many guys sending questions, so thank you so much. Sorry, sending in assumptions, so thank you so much if you're one of those that sent them in. They were great assumptions. I honestly, and those were picked of the best. Like we had quite a lot of repeats, and so many of you guys were so lovely, like, oh, I think you're a nice person, I think you're a good friend, and I'm like, stop it, we want the drama. So thank you so much to you guys that sent in your assumptions. That was really, really fun to do, and I hope you guys have got to know me a bit more about my background, about my education, about who I am as a person. So yeah, it was really fun doing this video. I really liked doing this, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribed if you want to join me. Hopefully I didn't put you off who I am as a person by that video, and hopefully you do want to join the YouTube family. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!